Welcome to week 3 of our Selfless series. And this series is all about Jesus. And we're looking how Jesus was selfless. And he inspires us to live lives that are selfless. That it not only has a positive impact on those around us, but on us ourselves. And each week we've been looking at what selfless living requires. And today we are looking at how selfless living requires noticing others' needs. Now, when me and Laura got married, we went on our honeymoon. Me and Laura, since being married, have been on 2 amazing holidays. We're going to tell you about one this week, and then in a couple of weeks, I'm going to tell you about our second amazing holiday. But we went to the Maldives for our honeymoon, and it was incredible. It was like living in a screensaver for 2 weeks. It was amazing. But the problem is it spoilt us for every other holiday since, because nothing has ever been as good as that holiday. And one of the days we were chilling out on the beach, we were relaxing. Laura took one of the sun loungers and took it right to the edge of the water, so her feet were in the water, so she was sunbathing, and the waves were like coming in and just slightly wetting her feet. It was really, really nice, and I thought, I'm going to go out and do some snorkeling. So I went out and did some snorkeling and checked out some fish and was just chilling out, having a nice time, and got a bit bored and decided to come in. And Laura's still sat there at the edge of the water. She's reading a book. She's got headphones in. She's listening to music. Laura's in her own world. And as I stood up and got out the water, it's kind of like Daniel Craig and James Bond, you know, the water just glistening off my muscles. And I took the snorkel off in slow motion. And everyone's looking at me going, who is that dreamboat of a man over there? And as I did it, I heard a noise behind me that wasn't a normal noise to hear on a beach. And I turned around and saw out into the sea a little bit was Nigel, who was the tour rep, who was the guy that was supposed to look after us in our hotel. And Nigel was clearly in a bit of trouble because Nigel was screaming, he was waving his arms, he was going up and down. And I quickly realized that Nigel was drowning. So I threw my snorkel, and then the Baywatch music started to play in my head, and it was like, dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. And I was swimming in slow motion, and I'm looking at Nigel, and I'm shouting to him, Nigel, I'm on my way, I'm on my way, I'm on my way. Meanwhile, Laura's just sat there reading her book, listening to music, has not noticed a thing of what's gone on. And I get to Nigel, and just as I get next to Nigel, he drops under the water, and I grab him by the armpit, and it was minging, but I was like, this guy is going to drown if I don't grab him. And I managed to swim back to shore with one hand, holding Nigel by his armpit, and I got him back to shore, and thankfully, Nigel was all right. And as I got back to shore, it was only then that Laura realized what was going on. See, Laura was stuck in her own world. She didn't notice that Nigel needed help. But because I was up and I was engaged with the world, I noticed that Nigel needed help. And when we are going to live lives that are selfless, it requires us to notice others' needs. On the screen is a diagram. You may have seen this in school. I'm going to bring some A-level sociology to you. Do you know I got an A in A-level sociology? Because I am proper clever. I actually got a C in RE, which is bad for my job. Anyway, let's not get distracted. So this is known as Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And what it suggests is that all of us at some point, and all of us right now, will be somewhere on this kind of hierarchy. You see, right at the bottom it says physiological needs, air, water, food, shelter, that kind of stuff. What we physically need as humans to exist. Like, if you don't have air, if you don't have water and food, you will cease to exist as a human being. That is like your basic needs. Then you've got your safety needs around personal security, employment, resources, health, property, somewhere to live, feeling safe. That kind of thing is like the second thing up. Once we've got all of those physiological needs, we need to feel safe. We need to feel secure. And then there's love and belonging, friendship, intimacy, family, sense of connection. Every one of us as human beings need to feel connected. We need to be in relationship. As humans, we were designed to be in relationship, and we need that. And then you've got esteem about respect, self-esteem, status, recognition, strength, freedom, realizing that you are valuable, that you are worth something. We all need to understand that. And then the final thing at the top, self-actualization, a desire to become the most that one can be, stepping into your potential. That's the thing inside of you that goes, I was just created to do this. When you just sit at home and do nothing, you are not realizing your self-actualization. And Maslow says that we will all be on this at some point in our lives. In fact, right now, some of you will be at one place on this. Maybe you can feel your belly rumbling and you're going, actually, I need some food. If I'm going to cease to exist if I don't have a sausage roll soon. Maybe some of you are feeling that. Like, we all sit on that table of needs at some point. And needs are different depending on the person. It's not just, recognizing that there's a homeless person who needs food or needs shelter. We all sit on this table of needs somewhere else. Needs, when we understand noticing others' needs, it's not just looking for needy people, it's the needs of all of us. And we're going to look in Mark where Jesus notices somebody's needs. And it's in Mark chapter 10, and it says this: as Jesus and his disciples, together with a large crowd, were leaving the city, a blind man called Bartimaeus was sitting by the roadside begging. When he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to shout, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." Many rebuked him and told him to shut up. But he shouted all the more, "Son of David, have mercy on me." Jesus stopped and said, "Call him over." So they called to the blind man, "Cheer up, on your feet, he's calling you." Throwing his cloak aside, he jumped to his feet and came to Jesus. "What do you want me to do for you?" said Jesus. The blind man said, "I want you to flip and make me see, you idiot." No, he didn't. But that's what I had to say. He says, "Rabbi, I want to see." And then Jesus says, "Go, your faith has healed you." Immediately he received his sight and followed Jesus along the road. See, Jesus noticed Bartimaeus. Jesus noticed the guy that everybody else was ignoring. Everybody else who was telling him to shut up, telling him to be quiet, ignoring him. Jesus noticed him. Jesus was in the middle of this really large crowd. There was lots to distract Jesus. There was lots to take his attention, but Jesus noticed him. And Jesus understood that deep down, everybody needs to be noticed. Every one of us has a need to be noticed. And living selflessly requires us to notice the needs of others. And just as a side note, if you're sitting there and thinking, Jesus has never noticed me, I want you to know that Jesus does notice you. And at Life Central Youth, we're really passionate about people knowing that Jesus notices them. And in fact, we want to reflect that. So when each of our leaders is hanging around, we want to make sure that each young person is noticed and known and valued. That's why we exist at Life Central Youth. So we want every leader to know the name of at least one of the young people that comes to Cruise, that comes to Threads. We want to engage with you because Jesus notices each and every one of us. We want to make sure that you are noticed. So know today that Jesus notices you. And there's on Friday nights we run a youth club called The Hub, and often I'm in charge. And a couple of years ago, we got an email off a parent in the week. It was kind of a complaint. She was a little bit kind of stressed out, and she said, "Look, basically at the end of the night on Friday, my son was pinned up against the wall by his throat. And he was really scared, and no leader did anything about it. And he came home, and he sat in the car, and he cried, and he was really, really upset." So I called the parents straight away. I said, "Look, I'm really sorry. We had no idea about this. I will action it immediately. I'll find out what happened. I will look into it." Unfortunately, on our youth floor, we've got CCTV. So I went and met with the phase team who help us lead Friday nights. And I sat down and I was like, how has a leader missed this? Like, how can somebody be pinned up against the wall by their throat and no leader notice it? How can that happen in our youth club? We have got like 25 leaders on duty. How can that be missed? There is at least 5 or 6 leaders in every room. How can that be missed? What idiot youth leader missed that moment? So we watched CCTV, and we knew the moment. Some of you have clicked already what happened. We watched CCTV, we knew where it was, we knew when it was, and we watched the moment. And the lad gets grabbed by the throat and marched towards the wall. And which leader walks past them? This guy right here. And I watched it and was like, oh my word, I've absolutely slaughtered another leader, and it's me. And the reason that I didn't notice what was going on is because I was in the middle of dealing with something else. And my eyes were fixed on something that I didn't notice the needs of something that was right next to me. And guys, in our world, we have things that take our attention all the time. We've got phones that are constantly giving us notifications, sending us messages, demanding our attention, that we walk down the street and sometimes we don't even notice that there's a lamppost coming right for us and we walk into it. We've done that. I've definitely done that. And we don't notice the world around us because we're consumed by the world. And if we are to live lives that are selfless, we've got to get our heads up. We've got to notice the needs of other people. Maybe for you, living selflessly requires you to notice people around you. Maybe you could notice the person in your year who always sits on their own at lunch. Maybe you could notice the friend who says they're fine, but they're really not, and they're really battling with their mental health at the moment. Maybe you could notice the teacher who doesn't see in themselves today. You know, your teachers are noticed by Jesus as well. Your teachers are human hearts that require love. Maybe you could notice your parent or guardian who's tired and seems a bit stressed out from work. Maybe you could notice the person struggling in your maths lesson that you could help out. Maybe you could notice the homeless person who everybody else walks past. Maybe you could notice the new person in youth today who nobody else has said hello to, but maybe you could go and say hello to them. You see, Jesus noticed the needs of others because he was selfless. And if we are going to live lives that are selfless, it requires us to notice others' needs. If you're a Christian, get your head up and you've got to notice it. If you're not a Christian, lifting your head up and noticing the needs of others will significantly impact your own well-being. Guys, let's live lives that are selfless and notice the needs of others.